In a telegenic flare of the African National Congress's own internal struggle for power, Deputy President Paul Mashatile has touched off a political firestorm by shouting publicly in Parliament that President Cyril Ramaphosa lied under oath and misled Parliament knowingly. The charge, made with thunderous certainty in an emergency session of Parliament, shook the governing party and left an already politically exhausted country reeling. What had been brewing for so long as murmurs of dissatisfaction within the top ranks of the ANC has blown up into an open showdown, revealing the party's deep divisions and declaring that the leadership struggle is no longer abstract. The parliamentary hall, usually the venue for heated exchanges, was plunged into stunned silence when Mashatile mounted the podium. With unyielding tone and visible exasperation, he charged the president with hiding the truth about executive decisions with profound consequences. Among the most severe allegations were the secret firing of important government officials, unreported spending on advisory boards, and the reported suppression of sensitive information during oversight investigations. The President of the Republic stood here and purged himself under oath to this House and the people of South Africa, Mashatile asserted. This is not a political scandal. This is a constitutional crisis, and we must treat it as such. Marshal's address continued, pointing out Ramaphosa's previous testimony to Parliament, one that the Deputy President accused of being sanitized, deceptive, and aimed at protecting the President from investigation. He named a disturbing roll call of instances: opposition parliamentarians knocked off essential cooperative governance committees without the right to appeal, foreign donor meetings held behind closed doors and off the record, and the increasing power of unelected, untested private advisers in the president's inner circle. Most incriminating was Marshal's assertion that essential national security discussions had been deliberately kept from senior ministers, a term Ramaphosa had previously denied ordering. As per leaked internal ANC documents that Mashatile cited, most of these decisions, heretofore characterized as being those of low-level bureaucrats or technical advisors, were actually orchestrated centrally from the very heart of the presidency itself. This is not miscommunication, Mashatile claimed. It's not a typographical error. It's a falsehood, and it was spoken to Parliament. That, he said, makes it a brazen disregard for the President's constitutional obligation to act truthfully and openly. The chamber shook with whispers. Legislators, reporters, and members of the public viewing the live feed were left aghast. Never in South Africa, since the collapse of apartheid, has a deputy president so openly and strongly denounced an incumbent head of state. The admonishment was a landmark break in the ANC's culture of internal discipline, loyalty, and coordinated public statements. Political observers now think Marshal's audacious statement was not made alone. Rather, it represents a deliberate plan by an increasingly vocal group of ANC bigwigs who feel that Ramaphosa's leadership is undermining the party's integrity as well as its vote-winning credibility. This isn't an off-the-cuff remark, was how one anonymous senior party strategist described the outburst. It's the endpoint of months or maybe years of disillusionment. Paul Mashatile is now the face of a rebellion that's been simmering for ages, and that uprising seems to have support. Sources indicate Marshal's faction comprises disenchanted NEC members, former cabinet ministers, and provincial leaders who are angry with Ramaphosa's risk-averse and secretive approach to ruling. This is it. The gloves are off, another ANC insider added. Mashatile isn't just talking for himself. He's talking for a section of the ANC that feels Ramaphosa is now a liability. And this was always in the cards. The only question was when. Opposition leaders were quick to capitalize on the opportunity. Democratic Alliance, D8 leader John Steenhuisen released a strongly worded statement within hours: if the president has lied to Parliament under oath, that's a serious criminal offense. He needs to be investigated and, if found guilty, removed from office. No one is above the Constitution. Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF, leader Julius Malema took to social media with an even more scathing condemnation: Ramaphosa lied. Mashatile outed him. Now he has to leave. While the president himself has been quiet, an address issued late on Friday night from the presidency sought to limit the damage. It referred to Marshall's charges as reckless, unfounded, and politically motivated. The address insisted that President Ramaphosa has at all times acted within the bounds of the Constitution and the law, and that any complaints raised will be dealt with through proper legal channels, not political theater. But behind the scenes, panic is apparently gripping the country. Presidential aides and lawyers are working round the clock to come up with a defense in case formal proceedings are triggered. The threat of a motion of no confidence hangs heavy over the presidency, with some ANC branches now openly questioning their allegiance to Ramaphosa. This is not a media scandal, political analyst Sabula explained. This has the potential to be an impeachment crisis. Parliament will be called to hold a special ethics and oversight committee hearing in the coming week to probe the allegations. If it determines there is enough evidence that Ramaphosa intended to deceive the legislature, the result would be explicit charges of perjury and the launching of impeachment proceedings. Constitutional experts maintain that the president's oath to Parliament and the public is not ceremonial, it's binding. Lying under oath is not merely unethical, it's criminal, said constitutional law attorney advocate Demban Lovu. If true, it basically ends the rule of law. In the broader public, responses have been fierce. Social media sites lit up with hashtags such as #Marshall vs Ramaphosa, #impeach, and #ANCINchaos. Opinion polls held in the immediate wake of the parliamentary sitting indicate a precipitous decline in public confidence in Ramaphosa, whose fortunes had already been fading in the wake of a series of scandals, sluggish economic growth, and ongoing power outages. Civil society groups, tired long enough of the ANC's own internal conflicts, have now started holding forums and protests calling for transparency. We are sick of leaders who deceive, cover up, and then resort to political spin, declared the head of a leading anti-corruption NGO. South Africa is worthy of truth, accountability, and leadership, not drama. Inside the ANC itself, the crisis could shortly compel a midwife reckoning. Some sources feel that the National Executive Committee may be forced to summon an extraordinary conference if the party is unable to unite around a single leadership. Others caution that further polarization may leave the ANC irretrievably weakened, particularly with local government elections looming in 2026 and coalition politics already reshaping national power. For President Ramaphosa, the weeks ahead are decisive. What he does next in the face of Marshall's accusations may decide not only the future of his presidency but also the legacy of his government. An aggressive, open counter-narrative might shore up his leadership if he possesses the evidence to support it. But further silence, deflection, or avoidance will probably hasten his political downfall. In the larger scheme, this is more than a leadership rivalry, it is a manifestation of the crisis of existence within South Africa's most historic political party. With growing inequality, worsening public services, and disillusionment spreading even among ANC diehards, the nation's tolerance for elite bickering is thinning. What started as a passionate speech in Parliament could well result in a seismic change in South African politics. And as the stakes increase and the national constitutional fabric is stretched to breaking point, one fact stands out: the era of covert dissent in the ANC is at an end. A storm has been unleashed, and the battle for South Africa's future leadership is underway in earnest.